You obviously have a love for animals and specifically giraffes, and really, I mean, you're in your early 20s and you decide to head off to Africa to study giraffes, and you've had this love of giraffes your whole life. I mean, what drove you to think this was a good idea to disappear and do something that no one else had done before?
That's a hard question. But I just really wanted to go and see giraffe. I just loved animals when I was growing up, and as it says, when I was 3 and in Chicago with my mom, I saw my first giraffe and I thought that was just so super. I'd had to spend my life looking at, and I just asked my parents about could they get a book for me, and they said, oh, there is no such book. And then I thought, well, that'll be me reading it eventually.
It was said a few times in the film that you are the Jane Goodall of giraffes, but since you were there first, it struck me at least that maybe Jane Goodall is the Anne Dagg of chimpanzees.
I love that.
And yet you faced clear obstacles documented in the film and a rejection of tenure, and it struck me how none of that stopped you in some ways, and you turned your attention. You continued an attention on animals, but you actually directed a significant attention towards fighting for gender equality and against gender discrimination.
I began right after I found out I couldn't help with giraffe. I was just devastated, thinking there was no hope there. But what I could do, I was allowed to work part-time, and that meant you got a very small amount of money and you couldn't use it for anything. So I spent my time actually visiting women in various parts of the university, and we'd notice our money we were receiving was always a lot less than any man was getting. So, and then we would start writing articles, and I remember flying across Canada and visiting various places and getting people riled up about needing to be women, and women to really have the same power as men. And we didn't really get very far because obviously we're not there yet.
Not there yet, though I think coming a long way, partly because of women and leaders like you, and partly because of the stories that are told about women and leaders like you. And so, Alison, how did you come to this incredible story?
Well, it's exactly the type of story that I'm drawn to, that I would want to see. So a trailblazing woman that follows her passion and overcomes obstacles, and her story just spoke to me so much. And then I read Anne's book, Pursuing Giraffe, which was such an instrumental book in, her rediscovery, and I thought it would make an incredible scripted feature film. Then I found out she was going back to Africa for the first time in over half a century, and I thought, this is historic. We have to go in and film her.
Have you seen changes in the academic world?
It's a very slow progress. It's just very hard to get people to change their. But it is getting better.
That's what Ruth Bader Ginsburg said was significant change has to come in increments, and if it comes in increments, then it can be lasting change. So I think, you were part of, those first steps.
I graduated in 1965 from Wilfrid Laurier, and you were my professor. And I thought you were shy and retiring at the time. I truly did. And it is evident that you have shown the strongest leadership for the last 54 years in science, but in particular in personhood. And I applaud you, and I'd ask you all to stand for this fine woman.